The summer season is really starting to heat up. You guys know Austin hit 100 degrees for the first time this year yesterday, and more heat is certainly going to come. And that means the state's power grid is going to be working overtime, and so are solar panels and batteries. Matthew Bombs is the executive director of the Texas Advanced Energy Business Alliance. He's joining us to talk about the role renewables play in all of this. Matthew, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit first and foremost about the Business Alliance, the Energy Business Alliance. What is it that you guys do?
Absolutely. So we represent advanced energy companies here in our state. Essentially, we argue for policies that are technology neutral, policies that help lower prices for consumers and help keep our grid reliable here in Texas.
And let's talk about the grid. It's been looking pretty good so far this summer.
Yeah, it has been. We're actually breaking electricity demand records right now. We just hit a new July demand record, and wholesale prices reportedly peaked around 6 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's a big deal. And the reason that prices are staying relatively low is that solar and batteries are showing up in a major way during peak demand.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. We're hearing that the battery storage in Texas set several all-time records, just this past week. What does that really tell us about the way that the grid is changing and energy is changing in Texas?
That's right. We actually broke the record yesterday. Batteries discharged about 11,600 megawatts onto the grid around 8:30 p.m. So that would be a new record. The reason that's important is because during the summer months, we have gigawatts of solar power that are really helping to power our grid. And as the sun sets later in the evening, we need those batteries to help discharge and cover that gap when the wind starts picking up in the evening.
So I think there are people who are going to go, okay, wait, when did all this get online? When did all of this happen? It seemed to happen so quickly, and I think people think back to, hot times, grid failures, winter when the grid fell in 2021. Talk to us about really when we started to see this surge. Was this quietly working all along? When did this really happen?
So much has changed since Winter Storm Uri in 2021. It really is a different grid than we had 5 years ago. About 90% of new generation since then has been solar, wind, and batteries. And that's what's keeping our grid reliable and affordable for millions of Texans. There are dozens of other states across the country that would love to have the grid that Texas has today. And really, the primary driver has been pro-business environment, really friendly, and those market signals are really high for investors that want to come do business in our state.
Yeah, you talk about how much of new energy is 90%. We've also seen renewables generate, more than 60% of electricity on some days here recently. How significant is that milestone for renewables?
It's remarkable for a state that's growing as fast as Texas to be powering its grid with more than 60% renewables, again, is a feat that any other state would have loved to achieve. And frankly, most other states are far behind when you compare the progress that they're making compared to Texas. So, I get a lot of phone calls from folks from other states asking what our recipe to success is. And again, simply, it's just been a really pro-growth, pro-business environment that we have here. And certainly deregulation helped back in 2002. And it's been 25 years since then. So you can say that that's been a remarkable success.
Yeah, I do have to ask you, Austin, we just had triple-digit heat for the first time this summer yesterday. So we're not even to the hottest point that we're going to be. As it gets warmer, people start to demand more electricity, more use. What are you watching on the grid as, in terms of reliability moving forward?
What you'd like to see when you're looking at those numbers is a really comfortable cushion between supply and demand, right? So what ERCOT, the grid operator, likes to see is that they have a really comfortable margin, and that's what we've seen over the last few days. I expect that to continue throughout the rest of the summer. The big problem in Texas has been those winter storms that are happening more frequently. So as winter approaches, something that we need to work on as a state and improve is that resistance heating that we see mostly in multifamily homes. And that can be taken care of really easily with more modern HVAC systems. But for the most part, the summer problem has been solved. We have a really reliable, affordable grid. Moving forward, the winter will be the real problem.
Ooh, Matthew, that was big. The summer problem has been solved. Okay, we're going to see what you say come fall. Matthew Baums is the Executive Director of the Texas Advanced Energy Business Alliance. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Ashley. Appreciate it.